Okay, as the hospital's vice president in charge of medical affairs, what ethical principles or viewpoints support the recommendation or decision?
As the Vice President of Medical Affairs at the community hospital, this case provides a couple ethical dilemmas, and the first one of those being the refusing of treatment to patients. I think that as a hospital, refusing treatment of the RA drug for certain patients could potentially look very harmful, as our reputation could be torn down in the society around us, as people might think that we're a hospital that as an administration is refusing treatment to people who have life-threatening diseases. So I'd say that's the number one biggest ethical dilemma, is the refusing of treatment. As well as number two, a big ethical dilemma is allowing treatment of a drug that is not fully tested. So basically this could backfire on us if we're having this drug just given out to everyone and anyone, and then all of a sudden down the road we come to realize that the drug is actually harmful and it's been harming people more than helping them. And so that could also return a very negative side effect to our hospital.
How does a Christian's perspective guide one's response to the situation?
I think that as Christians, we're called to help everybody. So that's why I think it's very important for us to set up a compromise where we're still open and allowing everyone that needs vital life-saving treatment of RA to still come in and receive that treatment, while we're still gonna keep the medical research and the experiment underground as a hospital institution, and until we find out further data, then at that point we could release it to the general public and for everyone. But until then, I think that as Christians, we should still be allowing that drug to be available to people who really need it, but still being sure we're being careful with our testing of it and with our administering of it.
As a layperson, what are your perspectives on what views are contributing to the ethical dilemma?
I think that someone who experiences the treatment protocols and procedures of the hospital firsthand has a great understanding of all of the ethical dilemmas that could be involved in this case. And so me personally, I think that one of the biggest ethical dilemmas that the patients, especially myself, are going to encounter when they're searching for treatment is the one involving their families and the impact that's going to have on their families. So no matter what they pick, everyone in their family is going to have a different opinion. Some people might be very happy with the treatment they choose, and some people might be very upset. And these feelings can come from different things, such as economic purposes. If they choose a very expensive medicine, some family members might not support that. They might not think they could financially afford that. So I think we need to be careful in our administering of the drug, because we need to make patients very aware of all of the potential benefits, side effects, and economic reasonings for this drug. And then at that point, if we find proper research, we could make the drug available to everyone for walk-ins or whatever. But until then, I think we need proper research to be done on the drug. I don't think it's fair to send patients in and give them free administration of a drug that they aren't needing, that we still have not fully done research on. However, I think it is important that RA would remain available for people who do need it and that are in life-threatening critical condition. I personally was not in critical condition when brought to the hospital here, but if I had been, I think it would have been a terrible feeling to have been rejected a life-saving drug. Even if I knew that drug wasn't 100% effective, if I knew that I had a life-threatening disease and that would be my only way at getting better, I think that it would only be fair for the hospital to allow that for people like those.
As a social worker at the hospital, how does the recommendation or decision affect family members and the well-being of the community?
I think that as a social worker, if we allow this drug to be available for people who are in life-threatening condition that actually need it, I think this will have a great and a positive impact on the families for people like that, as they'll see that the hospital's doing everything we possibly can, every last option to try and save the life of that person and give them the best treatment that we have available. However, I think that on the other hand, this could have a very negative impact on the families if things were to go south. I think that dealing with families every day and the families of patients, I've seen that if we administer a drug that has a side effect that the families weren't expecting or weren't really thinking was going to come upon that patient, a lot of times those families can turn their backs on us and actually create more problems than they think we're even helping with. And so I think it's important that we're careful with who this drug is administered to at first, as we need to know that families are either going to rejoice greatly or shun us greatly, dependent upon the outcome of that. And I think that we need to be flexible and willing to work with families, as this is a new experiment, something we haven't really reached the boundary waters of yet. And so I just think we need to be open and willing to listen and talk through things with the patients and the families of those patients.
As the hospital's attorney, what are the potential beneficial and harmful consequences of the recommendation?
So the recommendation of RA could come along with a ton of beneficial legal side effects, and especially one of those being an economic benefit. I think that as a hospital, if we were the first to kind of set the path and go into this research on RA, I think that could bring a lot of revenue to our institution as a whole if we were to find conclusions that the drug is beneficial and very helpful. I think that'll go out into the community and society as our institute is ahead of everyone else in research. We're trying to do the best we can for our patients, and that would give a great positive self-image of our hospital off to the community. Definitely some risks here, especially legally speaking. As an attorney, I've seen several times, like I said, patients have things go wrong with procedures or what it be, and immediate lawsuit. So I think that lawsuits are definitely a red flag in this situation, and there would have to be legal papers, documents signed between patients, families, and the hospital in the administering of this drug. That would have to be very unique to this situation because the drug is not fully developed and researched. And so I think that there's definitely legal issues. And overall, I believe that the legal issues in this case are going to outweigh the potential benefits. I don't think it's something we should be giving out to everyone because, as an attorney, like I said, this could backfire hard financially and legally towards our hospital.